have you ever had sex on a first date? That was the opening question. And I said, of course, many times.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Second Act TV. So happy for today's show. As you can already see, there's a man in the picture. I'm welcoming back Robby and Treva of Done Being Single, the co-host. Of course, you all know Treva, the author of Done Being Single, sitting right there behind me. So guys, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us. Love being here.
This is really kind of funny for our viewers. Treva and I were discussing what do we want to do for our next segment, and what keeps coming up over and over and over again is sex on the first date.
I love this.
Should you or should you not have sex on the first date, especially as it pertains to our age? And then Robby heard about that and he said, "You girls cannot have that conversation without me." So Robby, now that we have you here, I think what would be really interesting for our viewers to hear as well. How did this come about?
Treva came in the other night and said,
No, I didn't come in. We were at dinner.
Does it matter?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I tell the story?
No.
I can tell it really good. So we're at dinner. And I said, "Oh, I'm going to be on Silka's show on Friday." "Oh, really? What's the topic?" "Well, the topic's really interesting. It's first date sex." And he said, "Oh, well, I've had a lot of it." And
this has gone off the rails.
You need a man's opinion.
All right, so hold on a second. No, let me tell you, I gotta say, she did come in the other night and say, "Have you ever had sex on a first date?" That was the opening question, and I didn't know what she was going for, and I said, "Of course, many times." And so then we got into the conversation. Why are you bringing this up? "Oh, because this is going to be the topic on Silka's show." I said, "Oh, great topic." So then we started getting into that. Do you remember that part of it? Okay.
Well, and before everybody says, "Oh, those two fight all the time," no, they don't. This is how we love to talk. You guys crack me up. So anyway, you've had sex on the first date, Robby. You've had sex. I can't believe it. That's terrible.
Is it really? No judgment.
I was kind of fascinated because we don't really talk about our past lives, or we know we had a life before we met each other. I mean, just to remind everybody, we met, I was 50, Robby was 56, and then we got married the following year. I had never been married, Robby had never been married. We had a lot of relationships. We had boyfriends and girlfriends and dates and one-nighters, and I'm sure, I kind of don't want to know. I mean, I just let that, like, okay, you know what? But this topic was really interesting to me because I wanted to know from the man's perspective, how does it change? How does it change things? And I mean, let's be honest, he was single up until he was 56. So clearly we were
unmarried.
Yes, so yes, we were both sexually active, up until that time, and we still are, by the way, with each other. But how does it change things? Did you know it was a mistake? Did you ever feel it was a mistake after you did it, while you were doing it? How was the next morning? Then how did the relationship progress? Did it go anywhere? Did it end? I was really fascinated because to be honest, I have not had a lot of first date sex. And the one time I did, I knew immediately it was probably not a good idea because women are different. And at that time, I wanted a relationship. It was for different purposes. And so knowing what I know now, it was probably not, it wasn't smart. It just wasn't very strategic.
And that's the big debate. That's one is it different for men than it is for women? And some of the experts here that some of the articles that I've read, the biggest pro, if you will, for it is that, gosh, you can establish right away whether or not you have chemistry, not waste time. What do you both think about that? Is that a potential pro?
Well, in discussing this the other night, having sex is kind of a natural progression from making out. So when you make out with somebody, are you compatible? Are you able to go, "Oh, I like that. What's the next step?" And if it accelerates in that same evening, and you do find yourselves in bed with each other, are we compatible to the point where I want to see you again tomorrow? or am I going to wake up here? Or is this a mistake? What had happened? It went too fast.
Mm-hmm. But doesn't it kind of, shoot your wad?
What's wrong with that?
Not in terms of no, not literally. Oh. I mean, doesn't it kind of shoot your wad in terms of a future? And do you want to see this person again? Because I'm of the belief that there should be some pursuit and some courtship, and I'm a little old fashioned that way. But for a guy, I think it's evolutionary. I think that men like the chase. They kind of like the pursuit, and to give it up so fast eliminates that and that incentive to want to keep courting. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. But I think that at a young age, you're not thinking about tomorrow.
Yeah, but we're talking about people over 50
we're not. But understand that most of these first sex encounters happened, I think, at a younger age. Now, but we'll talk about as we get older, does it still happen and how that affects relationships. But I think that for me, those times happened when I was young. And as you get older and mature or evolve, you realize that's probably not the best thing if you do want to have a relationship.
That's what I'm asking. So if you knew that you were interested in someone and you thought it had, some future, right?
I'm going to go for it. No, I'm still going to go for
it. If you had a date with someone and you thought, oh, this has potential, would you, if the opportunity presented itself, would you jump in the sack with her on the first date?
Probably not from my mid 40s on up. I did not.
Interesting. See, that's really interesting.
I was not, that was not the penultimate goal at that point. It was to find somebody I wanted to be with. And sex was not that goal.
Well, see, now what you just said, Robby, and I'm not picking on you by any means, this is what comes across in all the literature, is that if I was looking for somebody I wanted to be with, the implication there is that if she's going to jump into bed with me, she may not be long-term material. And that's the big debate. Do you agree with that? It's okay if you do, because lots of people do.
I think that, we can't say that men are animals and women are not. We are all animals and we all have urges and needs. And if the woman's needs are to want to have sex with someone and she's empowered to do it and emboldened, who's going to say no, except maybe an evolved man that says, whoa, brakes, I got to put the brakes on here. I'm not ready to do that. I like you, but I don't really want to jump in the sack with you right now. I want to get to know you a little more. Is that something that you don't hear from men too often? I don't know. But as I got older, I was able to be that person.
You had more constraints.
It wasn't important to have sex. Sex is an inevitable thing. It's going to happen between two people that love and care for each other.
Yeah, you were past, see, that's the other thing that they say, that we learn that other qualities matter. Yes, you have to be sexually compatible, but that the first date doesn't necessarily show that, especially perhaps at
it depends how animalistic you two are when you do meet, and that does happen as well.
I think as we all get older, we understand the value of patience and waiting. But I also think it's important to have some presence of mind, even in the heat of the moment, some presence of mind where you say, is this something that's going to serve me, later, tomorrow? Is this something that's going to, help my cause? I would say, wait a minute, don't, unless, if a relationship is what you want, okay, and you want to see the person again, I would hold off. I would slow down, because why not? If you've been in a sexless marriage, okay, if you have not gotten laid in a really, really long time, and you know what you want, and you know what this is, and you can communicate that, hopefully, to your partner. There's, as Robby says, we all have desires, right? We all have urges. I'm not church lady here, even though, I sound like it sometimes.
Church lady.
I do. I think sex is special and sacred. It is personal. It's what you want. But like I said, if it's something you want something a little long term or something a little bit more substantial, I don't see any harm in waiting and talking about it.
Right, right. I asked before the interview, I told, Paul, you guys were coming on, and guess what the topic is? And then I asked him, I said, what do you think? And he gets uncomfortable talking about that kind of stuff. And I'm like you, I don't really want to know either. His immediate thing was, I don't think it's that, at our age, we're grown up, why not? He goes, maybe when I was younger, I would think, she was easy or this. I don't know if I would. But he honestly, I mean, he started thinking about it, but he had to think about it. And I bring that up is how many men actually ever think about this before it happens? Do you ever go on a date and what am I going to do if she has sex with me? My point is, what I'm feeling in various conversations and various writings, that men really don't put any sort of value, not value necessarily, but judgment on that or the expectation of it. Whereas women, we do. Well, what if he wants this? What if he, I mean, that right there, we're already coming from a different position.
Silka, can I disagree with you there?
Absolutely.
We
That's why
put
you're here.
we put great value on that, and but we really put, I think, more thought into it
And I
than
give you credit for.
than anybody gives men credit for, I think. But I also have to qualify that I think it's the more evolved men that do that than the Neanderthal mouth breathers that are out there. So I think it's important to have a sensitivity of what the woman may be feeling. And again, as we get older, is that what's the goal? As Treva said, we got together in our 50s and we didn't hook up for 3 weeks, it seemed like. I think we didn't really go for it because it was an inevitable thing that was going to happen because we were digging each other. We may have made out the first night.
Oh, yes, we did.
We
it got hot and heavy on the
and
first,
I said,
and I'm like, okay, time out, let's get out of here, because if we don't leave, if we don't get off this couch, it's trouble.
Yeah.
So that's what, and then we went out to dinner. Yes, that's what happened. But I just wanted to say, with that said, you want to have sex, I mean, on a first date, by all means, we're not judging. And it might be healthy, it might be a good thing, connection in any way, right? A warm body, again, having a little moment, presence of mind, a little moment that you take for yourself and kind of like project into tomorrow. Am I going to be filled with anxiety and worry that he's not going to want to see me again? Have I just blown all of the mystery out of this?
One of the pros, to your point, Treva, that I read was interesting was that, of course you can have sex, enjoy yourself, blah, blah, blah. And if, for some reason, if either the guy or the girl or the man or the woman, if the next day they don't call or they don't want to see you, that it wasn't the sex, has something more than that. And maybe that might be partially true, but the act of sex and what we attach to it, we as women need to understand that, and I think men need to understand that you may be sending a terribly misleading message by either by going for it. Would you agree with that?
Okay, so there's something also that we're not talking about, and that is that we may be placing too much emphasis on sex. Sex is just a physical expression of affection that you're feeling for somebody. Sex, if you withhold it because you're making that the penultimate goal there, and then it could be unfulfilling, it might not be satisfying, and then that could be more disappointing than that you don't want to find out about the intellectual curiosity from the person. Intellectual connection is much deeper and takes much longer to materialize. That to me is more important than the sex that could happen very quickly and could be done in a few minutes. And, okay, yeah, we're compatible there. That's good. But this is much more important to be compatible for a long lasting relationship.
That's another thing that's written here, is that instead of having all this anticipation that you might be disappointed when it finally happens. But I'm wondering that, again, at our age, and to your point also, Robby, is that how important does it remain that important, or at that point, if you wait and really give yourself a better chance to get to know each other, you have a better shot at a relationship than having the physical coupling early?
Okay, so one of the reasons I'm against first date sex is that to say, well, let's get it out of the way so we can determine whether we're compatible or not.
Is that determinant?
No. Well, sexually,
Sexually,
let's have sex. So at least let's get that out of the way. We can determine at that point whether to go forward. That's ass backwards to me. I don't agree with that that method. But I can understand, to your point, you want to figure out or know sooner than later, do we have chemistry? Are we going to, mesh here? So what happens is you get so attracted to someone's mind, right? And other things that even if it's not fireworks in the sack, and it may not be, you still have other things to be attracted to enjoy. And who's to say that you won't be able to develop your own groove as you go along?
Well, see, and that's the other point, is that when I hear that, oh, we'll know right away if we're, compatible sexually, or if there's chemistry. I think if there's chemistry if you, when you're together, or if you just kiss. To leave it up to sex on the first date can be horrible. That I think that can be so highly misleading that again, I believe at our age, and that's where we're speaking with, and I can't wait to hear the comments on this, is that no, I wouldn't want to be judged by the first sex act.
And also, again,
performance anxiety.
Well, there's nothing to look forward to. Then, oh my gosh, you run the risk of so much sort of like assumptions about that person. Well, if she's doing it so fast, or he's doing it so, that who else is right? There's that. And again, I get, if you just have not been touched, and just for the love of God, you need just someone to touch you, do it. Like, get what you need. But do it with some presence of mind, some understanding, some forethought.
You still want to protect yourself from any STDs that may be out there if people are too, loose. Look, we have a good time, and that's really important. And you have to, we make each other laugh. And sometimes at the most inopportune times. That Treva says, "Don't make me laugh now. I need to concentrate." It's very funny.
But that's stuff that you develop over time, right?
Sure, but
you develop your thing, your inside jokes, and the things that bring you closer. Again, I mean, I'm no prude, but I am kind of old-fashioned. I'm a little, old school when it comes to particularly sex. I just think it's one of those things that can go horribly wrong. And for that reason, I say just hold back a little bit, get to know the person, and communicate what you're in it for.
Well, statistically, and I don't know how accurate these statistics are, but the research that I saw is that less than 10% of couples that had sex on the first date went on to a relationship.
We know one.
Yeah.
We know one.
It's very low.
No names.
No one knows.
Gosh,
well, what I find, and we could talk about this forever, obviously, and like I said, I can't wait to hear the comments, because they might actually bring on some more segments, because this is an important topic. What I found is that, and here's my opinion again, is that based on what I'm reading, what I hear from not only our age group but younger, is that it's become almost fashionable or politically correct to say that we're in a freer sexual environment, that it's okay for women, that women are no longer judged. You're not easy. Everybody has the right. I think that's what you're supposed to say, but I question how much that belief actually prevails. And that's sort of where I'll leave this. With the original question, for sex on a first date, is a quote a relationship killer?
I can't say that is a killer. I just think that it's a natural progression, and if you throw it out there and you make that guy wait for it to the point where he has to know you to a degree before you allow him in. Well, but I'm
not saying.
I don't know. Are you?
Well, we waited.
We waited, but we're talking about people dating
dates
today in their 50s and 60s.
Okay,
so is it worth waiting? And how long do you wait? Okay. And what is the proper time? So
I have a question.
It's a comfort. Yes.
With this all said, how many of the women that you had first date sex with? Did you want to see again? Did you see again? And how many of them turned into relationships? Go ahead. We are waiting.
39%. Oh, I'm sorry. I have no idea. Yeah.
You've got to have an idea.
How many women did I want to see again?
And did it turn into a relationship?
Well, if the sex was good and we enjoyed each other, I probably wanted to see them again.
Did you?
I probably did. But, other things would cause it.
But even seeing once or twice isn't a relationship.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
You're old-fashioned.
But are you setting a precedent? That's the other thing?
No, I'm asking you.
I'm throwing it out there. Does that set a precedent for the subsequent dates? That if you have sex on the first date, are you expecting it on the second date or the third? And then are you kind of saying, well, you gave it up first date, you're gonna give it up again?
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah.
So what do you? Yeah. So I think that opens up another little can of worms that you want to think about.
Don't think about my vagina that way. It's not a cute. It's not a little can of worms.
It is. It's a very cute little can of worms.
Okay, so then it becomes about the sex. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. You have it too soon, it becomes all about the sex now. Once sex is introduced too early into it, it's hard to. Now it becomes too much about that. And when are we going to get back into bed again? And you very rarely go at it, backwards where, okay, let me get to know this person now.
I don't know about that one. That's a good one.
Because then you think something is wrong. All of a sudden they don't want sex. What's wrong? I mean, see how there's so many insecurities that come to my mind right away. Again, this topic is just laden with so much insecurity, with so much judgment, with the right and wrong, the moral, religious, etc. And for those watching that say, hey, at 50, who even at 70, a friend of mine just the other day said her first date, they met at a restaurant and was the first time. She goes, this is the first time that a man ever said, I'm happy to pay for the room. And she just fell off the chair. This remains relevant if you're dating over 50. So is there anything else you want to add before we close for today?
No, I just think that, communicate. It's really important that it's mutual. And that it's not just one-sided or somebody is feeling slighted. You don't want to pull. It's not a pull and a push thing. You got to go hand in hand and share. And that's really important. As long as it's mutual, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, there is no right and wrong answer. And again, I can't wait to hear the comments on this and what kind of, what goes through your mind as you hear us talk today, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And Treva, of course, I'll link to all of your information. If you want to talk a little bit more about, should I have sex on the first date? Talk to Treva if you need a little direction here. And Treva, I cannot wait to have you back and Robby as well on Second Act TV.
Thank you. Bye.